Alright, so finally getting this video out to you guys. The main reason why I kept putting it off was they kept adding books to it. I don't want to say I can't, well, yeah, technically I kept adding books to it. Like, I could have had one set be the volume 1s, and the next set be volume 2s. I believe I added some, like, to break even, and then this most recent time when I added those last three books, that was just kind of like that was just to break even, because I got the library books that same day, and I was like, okay, tomorrow we're gonna have the same 16 comics 16 comics to read total. So might as well add those three in, so it's 16 and not 13. Kind of that thing went on. But now we finally have. I gotta push these books back. I can. So I have the. You'll probably get that video when I'm on vacation. That's sort of what I'm planning on, and I have these books in a special order. There we go. But we get that review tomorrow. It's not tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be showing the books that I'll be reading, and you'll see some of them, but except for the floppies, which is actually it works out perfectly. I pushed it off for a final time for tomorrow to be uploaded tomorrow. It's gonna work out perfectly because I can add the reviews for today. The library reviews, that will be whenever. That will be when I finish those. That shouldn't be in like too much longer. 7 days from when I put it in, so I'd say Thursday maybe. No, that doesn't sound right. But it should. Right, let's get on with it. First up, and I'm probably moving that to Friday. So get Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. WTF. Haha, very funny. First up is I want to do this at least once per month. I want to make it 12 books, probably 15, because I read 2 volumes of a series before, and before I had read a series that was 2 volumes, and you add 2 of those, But anyways, I try to read at least 1 image book per month, and no matter if I've read it before or not. Usually I've not read it before. This one I'm reading for the first time, and it is Stray Dogs. Both the volume 1 and then the 2 issues that make up the sequel. And the 2 page long free comic book day issue before they gave the free comic book day issue was like 2 pages of like a prequel kind of thing. And then it was the first issue. Like it was like an alternate opening. It's exactly what they gave you for the free comic book day. It was an alternate open that was like 2 pages and then the first issue, which was really nice because I had to go to alternate avenues to get the free comic book day issue because it's not on Kindle. Why don't I noticed that? Like I think Image does not give out the free comic book day issues on the Kindle afterwards. Like, I get it, you don't want to do it right at the bat because people are going to be like, okay, we're not going to get this free comic book day Energon Universe until it comes on a Kindle. Like, that's what I would do. But do it like a month later at least. Like, not at all, really? Yeah, I know you give a lot of issue 1s for free, but when was the last one you did that for? Like, for recent comics, recent releases. Because you did that for Family Tree when I bought it, and it was like 2 months later after I bought it. And that's when the book came out. Like, I was like, I'd say it came out in January. By March, the issue 1 was out for free. That's how quick it was. And I don't know if they've done that recently. So I can't even say, oh, well, they give you issue 1 to the full series for free. Yeah, they do, but I don't think they've done it for a recent series. Like, I think the most recent may have been Family Tree. I'm sure it was after that, but seems like it. And yeah, there's plenty to get for free from Image for issue 1s. Like, in general, I would say there's at least 100. So here you go. But anyway, Stray Dogs. This one I found was pretty good. I was a tad bit overhyped. I do think that people acted like it was super unique, and it is because it's Silence of the Lambs meets Not All Dogs Go to Heaven. So the dogs are witnessing certain giving too much away, are witnessing like crazy things. And sometimes they forget, and it's a really cool concept. And maybe I'd like a lot more of it right the second time. I still thought it was very good. I thought it had perfect pacing. Even the 2 issues afterwards that were double sized, I think had perfect pacing. And I do think this story is worth checking out. Like, it's worth the $16.99 cover price. And there's another one coming out called Feral from the same writer. It's about cats living in a post-apocalyptic world, I believe. Actually, I don't think it's just cats. I think it's a bunch of animals. It's like they have rabies, and it's like a pandemic. So they always have like some undertones, but they're never like annoying undertones. They're always like twists undertones. But this one I thought was pretty good. Like, I thought it was, I would say everyone else gave like a 10 out of 10 and 9.5 out of 10. I would say 8 out of 10. So not too far behind what other people were saying, but definitely behind what other people were saying. Noticeably not behind. And then the two sequels, this is Dog Days. This was a bunch of anthology stories that took place before and a bit after the events of the first Stray Dogs. They were decent enough. They were just like little anthology stories, nothing like groundbreaking, but definitely worth getting. Like, I would say get the trade that collects these two and the free comic book day issue. Stabby Bunny, I thought was pretty damn good. I thought it was like, and kind of crazy. Like, you didn't know what was gonna happen next. The artwork in here, usually don't show the artwork, but I will here because the artwork was a bit to get used to. Where's a good place to show it? Nope, right there. I just kind of was. Yeah, that's a good one. The artwork takes a little bit to get used to. It's kind of like that overly cartoony kind of artwork. And I thought it fit the story a bit well, but not too well, because it kind of, yeah, I guess you could say. But you could argue both points. But I thought this was really a fun book. Really crazy and insane. The ending kind of, like, just ends. Like, there's no, like, usually they have something after that ending. It's like what's called an epilogue. And you kind of did need that epilogue, and there wasn't one. It kind of just ends. I'm like, okay. I mean, everything's untied up. I did also think the conclusion was a bit too, like, fast. Like, it was all of a sudden, this is happening, and it's like, okay. I mean, it wrapped up nicely, because, you know, all the loose ends are tied up for the most part, but alright. I know there is a sequel to Stabby Bunny. I believe there is, at least. So, that would probably solve all the issues I had with it. But all in all, I'd say it's a decent 7.5 out of 10. Under Stray Dogs, definitely. But it's like a very high 7.5. That's why I give it a 7.5 and not a 7, because it's very high 7. Closer to an 8 than a 6. 4 Kids Walking into a Bank, I have read several times. It is fantastic. 9 out of 10. It's just, it gives you pretty much everything you want. I do also think that the conclusion is very rushed. I think they could have given us one more issue. But all in all, I thought it was very good. Like, the downsides are completely outnumbered by the upsides. 9 out of 10. Maybe even 9.5, honestly. Whatever I gave it last time. Bad Mother. Now, there's a lot of, what do you call them? Picks of the week. This is one of them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the ones out. Actually, I'll do that. I'll put them on the side here. I'll take out all the picks of the week, and then I'll give you the actual pick of the week once I have them all together. I can kind of, like, review them myself, you know. But Bad Mother, I don't mind just say pick of the week. Bad Mother is definitely a pick of the week. It is a crime story that gives me everything I like about crime stories, revenge tales. It is insanely good. I believe it did wrap up pretty nice. Again, I hate to say it, but again, it was kind of rushed, but it did give you everything you wanted. I would say it was the least rushed out of the ones I say that had kind of rushed endings. But very, very good. My first AWA Upshot book, and honestly, like, there's little like subtleties here that you can tell it's different. It feels different than something that image would give you. It's very hard to explain, but it does not seem like it's just another indie book. It could be from any other publisher. It does feel like it's from its own separate publisher, at times. Basilisk, another slam dunk Cullen Bunn story. I absolutely adored this comic. I thought this comic was very good, and it's volume 1 of a 3-volume series. Now, for this one and the next 3, I knew there was a volume 2 of the series, but I decided with these 3 I was going to say, screw it, we're going to break all the rules, and we're going to read volume 1. And for this one, you know, yeah, I knew I'd like it, so maybe I shouldn't pick that one, but the next 2, I wasn't 100% sure, especially the next one. Now, Basilisk, I do have the first 9 issues, but the rest of this series I have in floppy form. But aside, throw that out. But another fantastic Cullen Bunn story. If you like Cullen Bunn, or you're interested in getting into Cullen Bunn, you could not go wrong going with Basilisk as either your next Cullen Bunn read or your first Cullen Bunn read. Absolutely fantastic stuff. 9.5 out 9 out of 10. We Live is the book I'm glad I read only volume 1 of, because if I had gotten volume 2 when I decided, you know what, we're gonna break our rules of getting nothing but Image and get one Aftershock comic and finally get volume 2 of We Live, I would have felt like that was a huge mistake. Because this one I did not like nearly as much as everyone else did. I thought it was very messy. I thought it was very all over the place, and not in a good way. I felt like it was just kind of boring, honestly, and it's exactly what I don't like about sci-fi. They kind of feel to this, not the storyline, but the feel that God, I just had it too. But the feel that this comic gives off, it just is kind of boring to me, and not really like for sci-fi. 5 out of 10. But I do recommend that other people read it, because it's not one that it's one that everyone else seems to like. So I would say it's one that you can kind of ignore what I say, but also have the mentality that it might not be nearly as good as people are saying. At least Stray Dogs I enjoyed, but We Live I really did. Like, even 5 out of 10 seems a bit too generous. I do like, although I will give it one thing, I do think more comics should do this. Nice, it's right there. Have a QR code that leads to songs composed by the writers. I think more comics need to do that. At least have a soundtrack of the comic. The Teenage Wasteland book that I read by Kurt Pyers had a soundtrack, and actually a QR code, and they gave you the soundtrack for each issue. Which I think was also something that was very unique. If you can't make your own songs, because obviously it's going to take a lot more to do than reading a comic, I'd say at least have a soundtrack. I think that makes your comic feel more unique and more lived in and more like you actually, it shows you put in a lot of effort too, because you could just have like, oh well, I was listening to this song, or I remember this song because when I was writing this part of the book, but what the hell was that? It's the way I hit the book. It's weird, but the way I wrote when I was writing this book, I was thinking of this song when I was writing this part. But even then, it still feels more unique than not having it at all. But that's one upside, one huge upside I'll give to this book. But all in all, it's kind of had that, not that feel. What's the word I'm looking for? But that feel is a good word to use. Like just give up that feel for sci-fi. I just not a huge fan of. However, Jimmy's Bastards, I absolutely adored. This is how you do a James Bond James Bond parody / satire kind of comic. This was fantastic. When people say we don't get enough of this comic or enough of this story anymore, this is what they're talking about. Not Strays, where it's just a bunch of dogs saying the F word and having sex and doing drugs, I believe, and swearing. Again, I mentioned swearing. No, they mean that where the males could be a little bit, can be douchey womanizers, but also be the hero at the end of the day. And they don't have to change a bit too much, and it's very vulgar, has a lot of F words and violence and sexual content and partial nudity. There's no actual nudity here. It's one down so give to ha. But it's not excessive with anything. It's not excessive with the profanity. It's not excessive with the violence, the sexual content especially. It gives you just enough of all of that to make you think to yourself, man, we don't get a lot of this nowadays, don't we? Very, very good. In a nice little satire on today's world. Very, very good. And by Garth Ennis, another Garth Ennis partial slam dunk. Because of how much I like Preacher, I would say this is Preacher is an absolute 10 out of 10. And this is more of an 8.5 to a 9 out of 10. Not too far behind, but again, far enough behind Preacher. But it's probably my third favorite thing that I've read by Garth Ennis, honestly. It's really damn good. some minor pacing issues here and there, and I do think it feels like it's like it does definitely give off that you got at a discount feel, but all in all, it was a very fantastic book. Like I'm so like only got it for $4. Like it's that whole entire trade I got for $4. Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now we're into the pile that are a bunch of books I've read for the first time. This one I finally finished, and I don't think I'll ever read this one again. This was just way too convoluted, way too all over the place. I understand why people like it, but I just did not at all. So yeah, Joey's Bastards and Basilisk are also picks of the week, so I gotta put that to the side. But yeah, Crisis I thought was just okay. I think Marv Wolfman and I will not get along as far as reading his comics goes. I know it sounded weird the way I said it, but as far as reading his comics goes, I don't think that I will ever, I mean, other than the Teen Titans, I probably won't ever pick up another Marv Wolfman book. There's another Marv Wolfman book I read. It was half of a story that was written by much better writers, and you'll see that pretty soon here. And honestly, I think Marv Wolfman just had the worst pacing in his comics. So there's two issues in here. Technically three. There's three that were longer. One was 36 pages at the first issue, and there's two other issues. I think it was and it's definitely issue 12. I think it was whatever issue Flash dies in, issue 8. Issue 8 and 12 were 42 pages, and I felt every single page. Issue 12 was a bit better because it had more silent panels, and I think some of them were even silent whole entire 2-page spreads. There were no dialogue, but it is very overwritten. I know it's a book from 1985, but even by 1985 standards, this is very overwritten at times. But I still do recommend that people check it out. But do you need to check it out? And can you just look up a comic pop review? You could. That's what I would suggest doing at this point. It's just one of those things that you probably know the story already. You know the best parts of the story. And if you know that, there's really no point in checking this out. Unless you really, really want to check it out for the first time. You really like Marv Wolfman and George Perez. Then yes, of course, I would say check that out. Now, like with Stray Dogs, there's also a floppy that I had of Crisis. But that one was a little dark multiverse what if story by Steve Orlando, and it was just okay. This was definitely just okay. But I would say to check it out after you've read Crisis. Can't go wrong. Coincidentally enough, this is the other half of it was by Marv Wolfman, and this I read for the first time all the way through, and that is Batman: A Death in a Family. One I thought, as far as there's two storylines in here. Death in the Family, the second one by Marv Wolfman, is The Lonely Place of Dying. Death in the Family had a very slow first issue, but it makes up for that by being just going all out and being not only having good pacing for an 80s comic, but a good pacing in general. This was actually one of those comics that actually does hold up significantly well. I highly recommend this book, and it is another pick of the week, along with Basilisk and Joey's Bastards and Bad Mother. So 4 so far. However, A Lonely Place of Dying kind of grinding this to a halt. By Marv Wolfman, the anti-good pacing story, more just it definitely feels dated. He has a good back in the day he was a really good writer, and again, Teen Titans is the book I like most out of him, and I'll definitely check out those omnibuses soon. Not soon, but eventually. But again, everything else seems to have terrible pacing. Again, it's an older comic, so you expect that, but just even back then, I kind of felt like it was bad pacing, and it's a good way to say that I'm right in saying this. That you had books like Batman by Jim Starlin that were very fast paced and very not fast paced, just well paced. Even today, and yeah, okay, I said even for back then it was really good. But you had a lot of them, a lot of the comics that are coming out at that time for DC Comics, especially Marvel Comics. No, not really, but DC Comics had perfect pacing. Suicide Squad had really good pacing. The one issue that I read out of the Superman John Byrne run had a really good pacing, and so is this, and not just this, but also the Batman Caped Crusader book. So both of these I feel the same exact way. Had perfect pacing as far as the Jim Starlin run goes, which this is most of what you get. You get one issue of a random guy writing in his last issue, but I don't count that really. But fantastic comic, and one of the most groundbreaking Batman stories ever that I do recommend people check out, even if you know what happens at the end, or at the end, but what happens to the Robin in the storyline. But Batman the Caped Crusader is hands down the pick of the week. 9.5 out of 10, perfect pacing. This is what I want. This is why I say I love the post-crisis DC so much, and why I like that era of comics so much, is because they had this really damn good pacing, especially back then. Then we have the Suicide Squad books. This is where I read that orphaned issue of the Superman by John Byrne, and these were pretty good, you know. So I'm gonna review each issue. So you had here's two from here, so the stickers covering part of the back. You had the first one, which was Amanda Waller issue, the one shot. That was written by Jim Zub. I thought was fantastic. Then you had the Superman 4 issue, another fantastic read. Superboy 9, I thought was pretty damn good. The Bad Dog one, I thought was decent, like above decent. None of these, I don't think any of these I really hated, honestly. Vigilante was really good. Detective Comics 300 was pretty good, but I wish it would been nice to give you both stories that were in 300 and not just the story that had Polka Dot Man in it. You know, redundant at that point, but not redundant, but like there's no point. But anyways, I thought other things, but I thought that there was. Suicide Squad 25 was probably the weakest out of all of them. Kind of just like okay, right forgettable one. Then you had the Fury of Firestorm, which I thought was really damn good. Like, another fantastic post-crisis DC comic. I do recommend getting, if you want, like, a little sampler of the comics I really like that, if you want a sampler of some Suicide Squad appearances for all the guys in the movie, I would say get both these, the Suicide Case Files 1 and 2. However, I think getting a discount would be a lot better than paying $40 for these two books, but it is worth it. Even then. And then for the next one, you had Booster Gold issue 1. That was alright. Wasn't like super crazy about that one. Suicide Squad 44, I thought was really good. Along with Batman and Harley Quinn #1, written by Paul Dini. Another great example why Paul Dini's a damn good writer, and why I got that Paul Dini Image book I knew nothing of. Green Lantern 174 was decent enough. Detective Comics 585 was really damn good. Another fantastic post-crisis book. And it was not written by Jim Starlin. It was written by another random guy I can't remember the name of. Secret Origins 14 I read before, and it was kind of like, I know all the best parts of this comic. But, you know, still some minor surprises. But if you read it once, you've read it again. You read it, like, honestly, even with my brain, like, forgetting a lot of what happened, I remembered most of it. A few things I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. About Rick Flag's past. But honestly, you could have just told me what happened and it would have been a lot better. It was a 40-page comic, and I kind of did feel each page. But again, because it was written by John Ostrander, I was never bored. Or never incredulously bored. And finally, you had Birds of Prey 58. Now, some of these books, if I did like them, I was like, why give us part 3? And I don't know if it's the first appearance of... I doubt it is. But I don't know if it was the first appearance of Savant. Maybe it was. But why not just do that, you know? It was part 3. That was the Birds of Prey issue. It was part 3. And I think what they should have done is they should have given you part 3 and part 4. At least that. You know, and just give it to one more issue to round out the comic. That'd been perfect. But all in all, I would say it's a nice sampler book. And you do get Batman and Harley Quinn issue 1, which is Harley Quinn's first in continuity appearance, not Batman Adventures appearance, not Batman Adventures first appearance. So you got that. Then you have Suicide Squad by Tom Taylor, which I think. Oh, well, it can be. I just saw a notification go through. Okay, it couldn't have been important because it wasn't text, so check it after. Suicide Squad Bad Blood, the Tom Taylor run of Suicide Squad. I still think it's a fantastic run, and it's supremely underrated run also. I know he gets a lot of shit because of his Superboy run, and almost none of that is in here. There's a little bit, some like wokeisms. Like there's a non-binary character. There's these 3 gay characters. I think 4 actually, because of Harley Quinn. But it's never like in your face about it. It's like, okay, gotcha. Moving on to, and it's more story oriented than like there's never an issue where Amanda Waller has to get over her prejudices and be more forgiving of this team because there's a gay. No, it's none of that shit. It's story first, LGBT shit after, which I don't think I've never been bothered by that in a comic at all. But I'm just saying, for those of you who are, it's story first, then that after. And I mean more like you think that's going to be like the focal story of the point, focal point of the story, like how it was for Superboy. Someone. But Suicide, after the one that I read, ironically enough. But Suicide Squad Bad Blood is a fantastic comic. I recommend to everyone. Last God. So Suicide Squad and Last God, these are rereads. That's why when I say they're really fantastic, I don't include them as picks of the week, because they're rereads. Rereads are unfair to pick as picks of the week. But I will still say that. But this is another reread pick of the week, and that is The Last God. One that I actually did read the back matter of. I didn't do it the first time around, but did this time around, and honestly, it's cool when they have like little songs and poems, but then they'll have more story, and it's like, why not just, even if it's not drawn by the same artist, why not just put that into little mini comics at the end? It would make the overall pacing of Last God a lot better. Because that back matter really does, you feel each page of the back matter. It's all text, no artwork. And you really feel that. But all in all, I still do think Last God is a fantastic comic, and it's just as good, if not even a bit better, than everyone was saying it was. Absolutely fantastic, and all you need for Last God is this hardcover you see here. There's also a softcover. And honestly, this is a standard size hardcover, so you probably wouldn't go. It's not the worst idea to get the softcover at this point. I think it does technically come with more pages. Could be wrong though. According to Amazon, does, but it was like a few pages. So I just need like some. I mean, it's like a. I don't know actually. Ant-Man, no additional story. Ant-Man, the mini series by Zeb Wells really did. The first time I read it, I didn't think it was all that great, but now with the reread, I think it is very good. Like a very good Ant-Man mini series. If you want to read a nice fun Ant-Man comic, go no further than here. You got Scott Lang, you got Cassie Lang. It's really good. It does take place in current continuity, but all you need to have read before is Young Avengers. That's it. And then maybe some issues of Kelly Thompson's West Coast. But they kind of just, it's just more because Cassie Lang is a Young Avenger. But I just recommend you read that comic. Daredevil Born Again. Another pick of the week, and it's an actual pick of the week because I read this for the first time all the way through. I started it not too long ago, a long time ago. No, it was a long time ago. I started it, never finished it, and I finally did, and it is just as good as people are saying it is. So far, my favorite Daredevil comic of all time. And it is another fantastic slam dunk from Frank Miller. It is just as good as people are saying it is. And yet again, it is an 80s comic, late 80s comic, that has perfect pacing, especially for that time. And it's, again, why I like this era. Even in Marvel Comics, like, I said that, not really, but yes, even Marvel Comics, this was my favorite era of comics. The all-around favorite era of comics was the late 80s. I say it's the 80s in general, honestly, of that era of comics. And this is a great example as to why that is the case. Deadpool Classic. This one was 90s all over the place, and it was fantastic. If you want ridiculous 90s, over the top shit, this will give you what you want. And honestly, you have to read this one to get the Joe Kelly run, which is the run that everyone loves. So either way, you have to get this book. But I do. This is exactly what I want at my 90s comics. They give me everything I wanted and more. Very fantastic book, but not pick of the week because it still is 90s cheese. But a fantastic comic to read before I watch the movie, which will be whenever it goes. Probably, I'm shooting for next weekend. Everyone in the family is dying to see it, so it'll be very soon. Another 90s cheesy, all over the place, like this, it's supreme, like the definition of 90s comic is Spider-Man Maximum Carnage. Now, some of these books, though, it's not like it's kind of a so bad it's good kind of scenario where I hear, oh, this ridiculous 90s comic where this happens and that happens, and oh my god, the 90s was so, like, dated. But that just makes me want to read the comic even more. And Maximum Carnage and Deadpool Classic are two perfect examples of what I mean. This gave me everything I love about 90s comics is in here. This is the over-the-top cheesiness, this, like, the kind of, not grim dark, but they're trying to be so super edgy and, like, oh, these covers, oh, I have the first appearance of this character that never matters in Spider-Man continuity. This character that I think appears once, but it's like, oh, there's Spawn, here's Marvel's version of Spawn. It's just so ridiculous, and I love it. And that's what this gave me. Now, why don't I have Carnage Classic right next to it? I don't know. So Carnage Classic has 3 first appearances. It was a trilogy first appearance of Carnage. Then he had Maximum Carnage. Then it goes back to this. So that's why I added in Maximum Carnage, and then Volume 2 is of all the series I had Volume 1 of. Unless there's more than 2 volumes. I think there was some I didn't do that with. But Carnage Classic, another nice little collection of Carnage stories. And not completely, like, you could read all these and not be asking too many questions. The only one I didn't like was It's a Wonderful Life. I thought that was too crazy and too, I thought was, I think it should have been written by Warren Ellis. Because Warren Ellis' Carnage Mind Bomb, even for the 90s, is pretty damn, not graphic, but pretty damn, damn, okay. Like, that's exactly the edge that we needed for 90s comics. That's what we needed more of. But it's a Wonderful Life was just like, oh, Carnage is crazy. Can it just be written by Warren Ellis also? Thank you. Or even Peter Milligan? Thank you. No, it's written by nobody. I hate to say it, but it was written by nobody. It was one of those names that I was like, oh, what's that one? It's not. Who was it written by? Sorry, I take some time to look that up. Shouldn't take too long because it was one of the last issues in here. It was right before we got back into Amazing Spider-Man crossovers. And then you have some, this is it. Then you have some Ben Reilly. So there you go. Some good Ben Reilly comics. David Ruin. I thought it was David Rubin, but it's David Ruin. Ruinn. Kind of nobody. But Kyle Hotz, so nice art, nice artwork. Oh yeah, so I am giving it out of 10 scores. Deadpool, I would say it was an 8 out of 10. Maximum Carnage, 7 out of 10, and 7.5 the Carnage Classic. There you go. Ant-Man, 8 out of 10. You know what? I'll go through it again. We'll do the end. How about that? X-Men Mutant Massacre. I was so glad when I was watching the Comic Pop review, and at the end they said this was a huge mess. I was like, thank God I'm not the only one. Yeah, you're not the only one. Yeah, everything they said about the comic, exactly how I feel. Like down to the just everything they say about it is exactly how I feel with this comic. Why is Thor in here? Why is 2 issues of the... Getting a lot of hate for this, but the supremely overrated Walter Simonson run Thor issue? Why are those in there? Why is Daredevil in here? It was a really good Daredevil issue. I loved it, but still, why is it in here? But it's just a mess. Even you have Power Pack, which I honestly hate Power Pack. I think it was one of those comics that, it's out of time, but ugh. But all around, this is okay. It's a mess, but sometimes it was interesting. I would give it a 7 out of 10. Again, I'll go through these all over again. I'll go over these again. And after I do the pick of the week, and I'll go through them again, and I'll go through the out of tens again. At the end of the video. Infinity Gauntlet, read this before. It holds up supremely well. Go read it. I don't need to say much about it actually. It's a fantastic Thanos comic too. Earth X. If there's a pick of the week, there should also be a void of the week, and Earth X by far achieves that avoid of the week status. It is just so much lore and just so much narration. I already know about this. I know who Mr. Fantastic is. Why? This is stupid. And then there's stuff at the end that I completely skipped. That was all just text right here. And there's like 6 pages per issue of this. I skipped all that. I don't care. It just went in one ear and out the other. Now, if you like a bunch of lore, if you don't mind a bunch of narration, because there is an audience for this, but I like Marvel's X a hell of a lot than the prequel to this, a hell of a lot more than I like Earth X. Which is why part of me is like, maybe it was stripped of the omnibus, but this is one of those books I'm glad, because I was just going to pick up the omnibus and then give this one away. But I'm just going to give this one away and not get the omnibus. This will be given to someone who I know will appreciate this book a lot more than I will. As there is an audience for this comic, but not me. Then we had the Ultimates books. 1, the annual, and then 2. Which was actually, annual was actually part of Volume 2. So Volume 2 had 2 annuals. It wasn't, Ultimates 1 had an annual, then Ultimates 2 had a second annual. Nope, it was just 2 annuals in Ultimates 2. But this was really pretty damn good. Not a pick of the week because it had some pacing issues towards the beginning, but I think on a reread that would go away. Like it's still an 8 out of 10 comic, but maybe next time it would be an 8.5. Like it would be a 9 out of 10 if it wasn't for the pacing issues. But I would say 8 out of 10 is a good score to get this book. It definitely is worth checking out. It's not too dated, honestly. It's just the pacing is not always really good, but because you're gonna have like a really fast-paced issue, it's really damn good. But then you have a lot of dialogue. It's like dialogue heavy and kind of exposition heavy. But then you have the narration is really good. The Scott Lang, the Hank Pym stuff is really damn good. And it's kind of awkward at times, but it's handled like surprisingly well. All around, I do still highly recommend this one, both of them. Like there's not like, yeah, Ultimates 2 was a bit better than Ultimates 1, but not, like, it still has the same issues, though. But both are 8 out of 10s. Acts of Vengeance Avengers. So this was about the time when I was like, okay, I picked way too many comics from yesteryear. And this is when I felt that. And so thus, this one, well, it is pretty good. You had just some really weak issues. Again, you have some Thor issues in here that were kind of very, very weak. But all I would say was decent enough. Like, it's worth checking out, but maybe a modern, I almost feel like I like Acts of Evil a lot better than the Acts of Vengeance. And it's another one where I don't need to check out the Spider-Man issues or the X-Men issues. I'm fine with just reading these. And we get at that. Fantastic Four, 1, 2, 3, 4, held up pretty well. I think not as well as I liked it, and I don't think I liked it as much as the first time. But a reread, and getting a reread will probably solve that issue, because it seems to be one that a lot of other people like. The comic probably liked it. Captain America. Sorry, let's get down the line. Captain America. What the hell is that? I don't know. Captain America, War and Remembrance. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I think this was one of the worst Roger Stern books I've ever read. Had just awful pacing. This came out in 1980, and it feels like it came out in the Silver Age. And I mean like 61 Silver Age. This was homework to read. Not recommend for me, but if you don't mind that kind of pacing, then fine. But, and again, even when I got used to that pacing, I was like, why am I reading this book? I almost dropped it like several times. It was just really bad. But the President Cap issue was a highlight. So I would still give it a 5 out of 10. But only because of that Captain America President issue. That was really well done. I think we need more of that. More of that, please. Like, what the hell happened? And I know Roger Stern is a really good writer because he wrote the Avengers issues I really liked. So now we have the Bronze Age. This is X-Men. So I'm going to review each. It's a bunch of. Technically, it is an anthology series. There's a bunch of different books in here. Avengers was really weak. They 110 and 111. Hulk 172 was really good. One more of that. Captain America issues were pretty good, but just a lot of Captain America, and you felt like it was too much. It was kind of too much Captain America at the end. Marvel Team Up was okay. Defenders was okay. Hulk 180, the first appearance of Wolverine, cameo appearance and the first actual appearance of Wolverine. Those are pretty good. They held up really well. Giant Size Fantastic Four was the highlights, and then Marvel Team Up that was actually pretty decent, like a lot better than the other Marvel Team Up one. But all around, I would say give this one a discount, or just get the Hulk Masterworks. And last but not least, Hellboy Universe, another pick of the week, and I would say this is where you can start with Hellboy. There's actually not anything in here. It's one brief instance. Actually, at the end, it's a I believe that's a I could be wrong. They have like little bonus stories, like little like 1-page stories here, and I believe that was just what I was about to say. Like, oh, there's one instance when I say, oh, this happens here. But I think it was just that one, but it might have been. They said it happens here, and then give it at the end. So even better there. So this is a great place to start for Hellboy. Like, fantastic place to start with Hellboy. So far, it's my favorite Hellboy volume. Fantastic stuff. And that, as I say, finally a great Chris Roberson comic. And one of my first John Arcudi books I've read. Other than like actually, I would say it's the first thing I've read by John Arcudi. Other than like it was like a 5-page story in Solo. That shouldn't really count. But fantastic stuff. Pick of the week. 9.9 out of 10. Alright, so now I got all the picks of the week together. So the pick of the week, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks of the week. I can't really choose, but if I had to, I would say Batman Caped Crusader wins pick of the week. Absolutely fantastic comic. But that, as they say, is that. A bunch of comics for you guys to check out. It's bound to be at least one comic for every viewer that I haven't checked out they would like. 43 minutes, wow, it's a long video. I felt like it'd be long. But that, as they say, is that.